Biggs, the football man of the Chicago Tribune, longtime contributor to the station and a valued friend. And he joins us now on the Atturo hotline, your all-weather tire, Atturo.com. Biggs-A!
Morning, Brad.
Morning, boys. What's going on?
Well, you tell us. We know that that Braxton Jones, the starting left tackle, came in this week with concussion symptoms, and he is a scratch. He will not be able to go tonight in Minnesota. We've been wondering how they will man that position, what that means. Will they max protect? How will they get away with surviving this Vikings defense without their starting left tackle? I'm not saying that Braxton Jones is the best player on the team, but the fact of the matter is they failed to score touchdowns in the two games that he missed, both Arizona and New England, maybe the worst loss of the year at home to New England. What who's going to start in that spot, and would they be willing to do something radical to sort of cover for that position?
I don't think you're going to do anything radical when you're looking at a shift that occurs on a Sunday before a Monday night game.
Man,
I would guess that Karan Amagaji gets the start, and that's just guessing here. I mean, when Larry Borum has been out there this year, he's struggled, right? And I think you look at Borum and you say he can handle right tackle for you. He can play inside at guard. He looks like he's a little out of place at left tackle. Perhaps it's Borum. You know, Amagaji was on the injury report not too long ago. He's been off it for at least a couple weeks. And he's played some this year, right? He's played a little bit. So perhaps this is an opportunity for him. You'd maybe hope that he had an entire week of running with the first team in practice, which he didn't. You'd hope that maybe it would be a home game. It's not. He's gotten 58 snaps on offense this season, and it could be his moment tonight against the Vikings.
Now, that's cringeworthy for a lot of people to hear, and you worry about Caleb Williams when you hear it. But really, that is the most logical direction to go for a team that's eliminated from the playoffs officially yesterday, in the midst of a 7-game losing streak, soon to be 8. Player development is something they have to focus on over the final 4 games. And you got a third-round draft pick who is your next option as Mully shakes his head in disgust, but that's the direction they have to go, isn't it, Brad?
I'm not in disgust. I'm in shock. I mean, I just don't know how Caleb survives this.
As a unit, they did all right protecting against the Vikings last time. Now, I think I said it last week when we talked, the degree of difficulty has gone up because this is a road game. They're going to have to deal with crowd noise, which is going to be probably at a fevered pitch when you consider how the Vikings have been playing, that it's a night game, all of those factors. But they're only missing one of the guys. Yeah, it's suboptimal, but there's that kind of goes in line with a lot of what we've seen this season. It's been suboptimal.
What's the over-under on sacks?
Oh boy, I mean that's you'd like to see it under 5, right? Like if you're just looking at it.
About that.
I take the over.
I take the over too. What, they give up 7 last time out? And I'm not being mean, Brad. And you're right. You would probably put it at 5, but that seems like 5 too many going into a game. No one. Here's the other thing. You can't run against these guys, not successfully. It's not like you can just
right. No, they've got to come up with. They have got to be able to get first downs. It's just imperative that they get some first downs, be able to move the ball, especially early. Like they can't be bewildered from the start against this Vikings defense. And it was a slow start against Minnesota in the first meeting before they got cooking. You know, they kind of got things figured out there. They were able to miraculously get that game into overtime. And they've talked, you know, one thing we've heard Thomas Brown talk about a couple times is being more aggressive. So what will that look like? Maybe it's a 2-man route or a 3-man route early where you're trying to pick up a chunk play or a 15 to 20 yard gain because they can't run it on 1st and 10 and think that we popped this and we're going to be at 2nd and 2. It is tough sledding against that Vikings run defense, and the Bears have had a difficult time running the ball really against everyone they've played of late, with the exception of the Packers. They had a really nice game on the ground against the Packers, and everything else has been pretty difficult for them.
This segment with Brad Biggs is sponsored by Plumbers 911. Plumbing emergency. Call the plumbing professionals, available 24/7 at 1-833-PLUM-911. All right, Brad, I don't know if there's anything to this, but I'm just curious because we discussed it earlier. Maybe it's the Bears are more diligent about concussion protocol or looking for signs or symptoms or encouraging their players, but Braxton Jones is now the 4th player that has gone down this year with a concussion. We know about Jaquan Brisker. Ryan Bates has been on concussion protocol and in concussion protocol for a very long time. Roshan Johnson's unavailable because of a concussion, and now Braxton Jones. Is it something about maybe the Bears reporting process that is more thorough or detailed than other teams, or is this standard? Do you look at around the league, you'll find 4 guys who might be suffering from concussions as well?
Yeah, I don't think 4 is a number that really jumps out when you talk about being this deep into the season with what 4 ball games to play. That and they may have had another 1 or 2 mixed in there that was real short. I'd have to go back and really look at it, but no, I don't think that that's a high number. And they affect everyone a little bit differently. They arrive a little bit differently in terms of the timing, and obviously the timing of Braxton sort of reporting his symptoms was later than usual, but it's a violent game, and hopefully he's better and out of protocol sooner rather than later. But we just don't know how that'll go. And again, the difficult thing is, like, Karan didn't get first team reps starting on when they had the walkthrough on Thursday and when they had a practice on Friday. That's a difficult thing for him.
Well, I mean, he didn't get training camp, right? And that make it difficult too. He had no off season. I mean, I'm not down on Karan Amagaji. I'm just wondering, could they move Darnell right? Could they try? That's what I meant by something radical. Could they do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what their best configuration is, Brad. And this just seems like it might not be. And you worry about the quarterback already taking, 56 hits or something, sacks. You're going to get dangerously close to that David Carr number if you keep this up.
Yeah, I don't think you move Darnell Wright like that. I mean, he's had knee issues. He's had some injuries of late himself. He's not taking snaps on the left side at all. Because your replacement at right tackle isn't going to be something where you're like, this is great. Like this guy could be the man here. They don't. That guy's not on the roster. They've got one other possibility here is Jake Curran, who has gotten about 85, 86 snaps for them this season, and he's a guy that has played more, I think, tackle in his career than guard. So I think it's probably a Curran or Karan discussion. I just don't think Larry is a guy they'd be looking at. Now, could Larry potentially will Larry be active? Yeah, he could be active. He was inactive last week. I think he's got a possibility of being active here, but I think it's probably between Jake Curran and Karan Amagaji.
Brad, you're right about the coaching situation in this morning's Tribune, ChicagoTribune.com, and I just wonder what you thought watching the 48-42 Bills-Lions game. Was that Joe Brady getting the upper hand on Ben Johnson in the coaching search? Do you think those are two guys who definitely will be part of the coaching search as they maybe decide between the innovative offensive young play caller versus the guy who has experience and is going to command the room?
Yeah, I mean, both guys are super impressive. I think Ben Johnson for sure is probably in the mix. Joe Brady's a guy that you want to learn more about and take a look at. I don't walk away from having watched that game and it was entertaining saying, boy, Joe Brady really outdueled Ben Johnson here. Like the Lions for a couple weeks have been piecing it together on defense in a big way with so many guys out on that side of the ball. And that was even the case when the Bears were there a couple weeks back on Thanksgiving. Like they were just kind of using dudes in a number of different spots on defense because they've been hit so hard by injuries. And then you see more players go down yesterday. And so I think that was something that was inevitable for the Lions. Can they rebound from that and get to a spot where they're not going to have to score 35, 38 or more points to win a playoff game? I don't know. We'll have to see. Aiden Hutchinson's not coming back anytime soon, right? It sounded like bad news on Aleem McNeil, the really talented and probably underrated defensive tackle. So Buffalo was able to go at a really depleted defense, and the Lions couldn't keep up. But those are two coaching names that I think will get attention from nearly every one of the teams that winds up in a coaching search next month.
This segment with Brad Biggs is sponsored by Estwing Professional Tools, made in the USA for 100 years, estwing.com. We know that Thomas Brown has a lot on his plate and a lot to do and a lot to correct from a week ago. How would you describe the scrutiny that Eric Washington is under? Does he go back to whatever the game plan was that Flusy had? And, they did a pretty decent job against the Vikings here in Chicago. I just don't know if that's going to work this time out.
Yeah, can you do a nice job against Justin Jefferson and not get picked apart by a bunch of other guys? Because it wasn't just Jordan Addison. T.J. Hawkinson, the tight end, had a 100-yard game against them. I think Aaron Jones hit him for some big plays in that game. So that's really a challenge. Is how do you prevent an offense with a bunch of different weapons from doing you in? Now you can't just not give extra attention to you let Justin Jefferson be like a regular wide receiver against you, and he's bound to go off for $150. So I don't know what their answer will be there. They've got to do a better. It starts with stopping the run, right? I mean, it starts with stopping the run and putting the Vikings in a situation where they're not in second and short or third and what can be a gimme. They've got to be a lot better in the red zone. That was really poor last week and uncharacteristic because the Bears have been so fantastic in the red zone. Say what you want about all the potential issues they've got on defense this season, and they found a way to get it done in the red zone every week. And I was having a conversation with a guy I talked football about recently here, and Tremaine Edmonds. You look at the body of work here through nearly 2 seasons, and they paid him an awful lot of money, $18 million a year on average on a 4-year contract. And you're looking at it and you're saying, I'm not seeing the impact plays that I think you would expect from a guy earning that kind of money, right? And I think everybody would probably agree with that. I'd also say that I think Edmonds is probably a decent part of their success in the red zone. When you talk about their ability, going into last week's game, they were number 2 in the league in red zone defense. They were playing it really well. He's so tall and he's so long, and he can move, that I think he makes it really challenging for opposing quarterbacks as they're getting closer to the goal line. Am I justifying $18 million a year for Tremaine Edmonds? No, but I'm telling you, that's one of the things they're probably really getting from him, is he's a difficult guy to go against. And even after last week's Niners game, they're 3rd in the league in red zone defense now.
All right, Brad, so kind of know which way you're leaning. What is your pick for tonight's game?
Yeah, I don't think many people are leaning toward the Bears in this one, and I'm certainly not leaning that way. I don't know how they keep this game super close. I picked Minnesota 34-21, and that was before I heard about the Braxton Jones news. I don't know that significantly changes things, but it's definitely going to make it more difficult for Caleb Williams and the Bears offense. I think they could be in for a rough one tonight.
What will be the best thing they do, Brad? I mean, when you just think of the Bears going on the road, Monday night game, can you say, well, they'll get the ball to this guy or they'll do something here? I just don't know what it would be.
The best thing would be not having a dreadful first half, right? Not getting to halftime and taking a look at it and saying, well, they've got 64 yards and 3 first downs, and they've punted 3 times, they've had a turnover, and they're down 17, right? I think you're looking for that fast start. Maybe they can't keep up, but it's been so difficult for them to get going offensively early in games this season. They've been outscored 63-20 in the first quarter of games. That I think that would be, if you're talking about they can't spring an upset here, what would the next best thing be? How about solving for once anyway that fast start problem?